morning, I am Anna from Morrison Academy Gashung, arguing and firmly believing that evolution is true. Before I state any evidence, I will explain to you what our definition for evolution is. Our side strongly believes that all living things on Earth are related and have derived from a common ancestor. Second, the evolution of living things has been powered by natural processes, which can be studied or understood. Now, I will be stating the main points for our argument, and my teammates will later be elaborating on these. First, my teammate will be elaborating on the fact that tongue stones and the discovery of the tooth of iguanodon proves evolution. She will also be explaining how the animals and plants found in rock layers are also proof for our side. Another of our points is that the similarities of body plans between humans, whales, and cats prove they have a common ancestor. Also, a question our team will be addressing is, if what the Bible says is true, isn't it completely absurd for a God to have created the world in such a short amount of time? Also, another point our team has is that although there are parts of the Bible that have been proved to be true or accepted by archaeologists or scientists, that doesn't mean that everything, including creation, has been proved to be true. We will also bring up the fact that there is a logical fallacy to creation's argument, and this is that they claim there must have been a creator to create something, using the teleological argument or the watchmaker analogy. But the problem with that statement is that who created the God who created everything? There must have been a beginning. You may say that something coming together on its own is a slim chance, so it probably didn't happen. But my teammate will also expound on the infinite monkey cage theory, which proves that when something has even a small chance, it still means it is possible. In conclusion, our team strongly and firmly believes that evolution is a fact. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Nash. Today I'm not going to talk about carbon-14 dating and creation. Instead, I'm going to talk about what is the origin of life. Evolution claims that original life formed from inorganic matter to organism by chance. This thought was firmly supported by famous experiment made by Miller and Urey in 1950. So what is the experiment? They used water, methane, ammonia, and hydrogen to simulate early Earth's atmosphere. They put all starting materials together and give them energy. After a week, they rarely received amino acids. However, this was an ideal situation. When we put this in reality and what happened, based on a paper published on the Nature journal, the author took thermodynamics into consideration. He had different results, and I prefer his. The concentration of glycine will be too low to form an organism. And this equation shows how to form the simplest amino acid, glycine. And the equilibrium constant is here. The concentration of glycine is here. Moreover, ultraviolet will decompose these amino acids in the sea surface because there was no ozone layer in the atmosphere in ancient time. Ultraviolet was much more stronger in ancient time than nowadays. Therefore, decomposition of amino acids was much more faster than synthesis of amino acids. Finally, my conclusion is even the smallest living cell contains 60,000 proteins of different configuration. The cell has complex systems like reproductivity, defense system, and the central control. Where did they come from? Evolution cannot give a convincing explanation. How do we supposed to believe evolution is true? So my teammates are going to provide more evidence to disprove evolution. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm proposition rebuttal, I suppose. Yes, okay, now I'm going to talk about why evolution is not a fact. Okay, here I hear you say that the evolution definition is the common ancestor, and you're going to prove it with fossil DNA and something like, you're going to disprove Bible stuff, saying that God, there's something higher than God, so it's you need a starting point. So basically, you're talking about time, and there's always something in the before, so that evolution cannot be true, so that's what you're talking about here. Now, I'm going to disprove it because the evolution, you can't see it. Well, here I should be talking about like Cambrian explosion, fossil, transition fossil, lack of it. So everything's kind of like the proof of evolution is not true. But I'm not going to talk about that. Evolution could be true. Could be. I'm saying it could be true, but all the evidence shows, there's always opposite side, and agrees. They can always talk about, yeah, I believe in that, I believe in that. So you can talk about either side. But the fact is, the truth, it is possible. Evolution is possible, but what makes it a fact? You say, like in the end, you say everything tells us evolution is possible. It's plausible. You can say, fish might evolve to frog. That's what you said. Yes, but does that really happen? How are you so sure that it happens before? Because you found a few fossils that might transmit it from other stuff, just a few. But you can't say that, okay, by that we can sum up all the things can have a common ancestor. No, there's no such things. You can't say logically everything is possible, but there's a lot plausible way. But evolution is only one of it. It is not the only truth, which is why it might be possible, but why is it a fact? What makes it a fact? So this is my question for the opposite, for your side. What makes evolution the fact? It is only possible. It is plausible, it is possible, but what makes it a fact? Thank you.
Proposition.
Hi, my name is Grace, and I am the second speaker for the team that is arguing for the proposition that evolution is fact. First, I would like to refute some of the arguments that my opponents brought up. My opponents said that even though the Miller-Urey experiment was done and it produced amino acids, but that's still not life, and evolution cannot give a convincing answer for life. But I would like to point out that, also related to the definition that my teammate has already given, that evolution regards the process of things evolving. It involves the process of living things evolving from a common ancestor, and that does not involve the origin of life. They've also said that evolution cannot be seen, and that you cannot see a fish evolving into a frog. But then I would like to ask, and then they ended the definition, but I would like to ask a question. Can you see God as well? Can you see God? Can you see a creator? Now I would like to go to my main point, which is adding on to a definition of what my teammate has given. Her definition of evolution was all living things on Earth are related and have derived from a common ancestor, and that evolution of living things has been powered by natural processes, things which can be studied or understood. And I would like to briefly elaborate on 3 of these natural processes, including natural selection, hybridization, and genetic mutation. My teammate will be further elaborating on natural selection later, but I'll just say that it was introduced by Charles Darwin in the book Origin of Species, and it basically says that natural circumstances determine who lives and who doesn't in the natural world. Hybridization is when different species or subspecies will interbreed, and they will form offspring of different traits and slightly different from their parents. Also, genetic mutation is a change in an organism's DNA, and it happens randomly, but sometimes it can cause them to have different traits, which can end up to be heredity or passed on to their descendants. And so basically, with the combination of all 3 of these natural processes, in the natural world, hybridization and genetic mutation, they give traits that allow certain organisms and their descendants to survive in the process of natural selection. In conclusion, our team is arguing for the proposition that evolution is fact. Thank you.
Second proposition constructed.
So, good afternoon, Honorable Judge, worthy opponents, and fellow teammates. So, I'm Ray from Morrison Academy, Kaohsiung. I'm here to argue about a debate about evidence is fact. And so I'll first start out with that creation has no scientific evidence, and it's based on the assumption that it's a divine being existing. And so I'll be talking about Darwin's theory. And so Darwinism is a theory of biological evolution stating that all species of organisms arise and develop through the natural selection of small inherited variation that increases the individual's ability to compete, survive, and reproduce. For example, finches were birds' beaks. The finches were originally the same species, but because of different environments, their beaks evolved. They evolved into different forms for them to have the right beaks to use. And another one is the giraffes. And according to their old fossils, giraffes have shorter necks, but for now, giraffes have longer necks. And why? Because they need to have the ability to get taller trees and get the leaves from there, or they will die. And just like the last speaker has said, if you can't, another evidence, and another one I'm going to talk about is antibiotic resistance. The antibiotic resistance is the action in and environmental pressure. Those bacteria which has a mutation allowing them to survive will live on to reproduce. They will then pass their traits to their offspring, and which will be a fully resistant generation. And so, for example, when you take antibiotics, when you take it for a long amount of time, you might need a stronger or maybe more amounts of antibiotics after you take more, because your bacteria inside your body might already have the resistance to the antibiotics you're using, because you've taken it so many times and the bacteria evolves into a stronger type and a better type of bacteria. And so in conclusion, we believe that evolution is fact. Thank you.
Second proposition constructed.
Hi everyone, my name is David. We think that the theory of evolution by Darwin is a fiction. If Darwin's theory is right and species transit into different species gradually and over long periods of time, why don't we see more evidence of these transitional forms in the geological record? Or in the other words, why are there so many gaps between species if all species are ultimately interconnected? For example, a fish fossil called Hybridization, this one, because the bones from it are similar to amphibian, people thought that it is the transitional form between fish and amphibian. But when a living fossil called silicon was found, this one, the hypothesis was overthrown because the phylogeny of these two species is very close. Research showed that the silicon is impossible to reach to land. So the Hybridization is not a transitional species. And another example is that someone thought the Moratorium is the ultimate transitional fossil. The ancestor of elephant. This was an amphibious mammal, shaped like hippo, with a mobile, muscular lip filled with its nostril. But it had none of the real characteristic of an elephant, not the trunk, size, tusks, nor the specialized weight-bearing knee joint structure. And next, the classic fossil of Archaeopteryx is not a transitional form either, but was fully bird. Its reptile-like teeth and wing claws are found in some birds today, like the hoatzin from the South America. And it means that it is not an evidence to prove Archaeopteryx is a transitional form between reptiles and birds. Thank you.
Second proposition rebuttal.
Hi everyone, my name is Marco. Both evolutionists and anti-evolutionists hope the fossils can support their own view. If the era of Darwin's fossils record, then so far humans have collected 10,000 tons of fossils, has proved that the evolution is correct. In fact, still cannot. Both the fossils of the apes and the fossils of mankind were found, but the transitional fossils that evolved from the apes to mankind were not found. And in 1892, Jabo people caused a sensation. Archaeologists found a piece of mound-like ape skull in Jabo and found the thigh bones 40 feet away. He said, obviously, it is the same creature. This creature is like an adult walking upright and has ape-like skull, and which must be the transitional part. But later confirmed that the list belonged to 1 million years ago, that an ape and a man living together in Jabo. And the Lucy, once considered the common ancestor of human and apes. But now scientists have identified it is an extinct ape. There is no relationship with people. When the origin of species was published, Darwin once said, only human evolution cannot be explained by my theory of evolution. And indeed, from the view of evolution, human evolution is too fast. And in the process, the capacity of human's brain is rapidly increasing. After the emergence of modern people, the evolution as if suddenly disappeared. 5,000 years of people's brain capacity have remained unchanged. And look at the number of brain cells. Modern monkeys for 1 billion, and the modern human about 14 billion. It is increased by 14 times. But the level of intelligence have changed dramatically. This evidence strongly implies that the evolution of the tree is not correct. Evolutionists just put them together in chronological order. So I consider that the theory of evolution is not correct. Amen.
Good day, honorable judges, worthy opponents, and fellow teammates. I am the second proposition rebuttal speaker, and I would like to answer one of my opponent's questions right off the bat. First of all, my opponent had asked my team, how can we claim that evolution is a fact when we cannot, when it is still standing as a theory? However, I would like to point out that we can state that evolution is a fact, much like how we can state that gravity is a fact. Of course, we can say that gravity is not a fact by giving out examples where we let go of things and it just floats up. But of course, there isn't any example of that on Earth. And so therefore, I would like to ask my opponents a question. Because if my opponents can give out an example where evolution is entirely falsified, then they cannot ask the question whether or not we can prove that we can state that evolution is a fact, because they themselves cannot give out an example of explaining why we should not claim evolution as a fact. And so now I would like to elaborate on some of my teammates' points. First of all, my teammates had talked about natural selection and why natural selection is a perfect example of microevolution. For example, he gave the example of giraffes and the elongments of their necks. Before, according to fossils, giraffes have short necks, much like a lot of other mammals. They eat leaves from shorter trees. However, as time goes on, competition of those leaves had grew very rapidly. And so therefore, because they aren't very superior at anything else, they have to grow long necks because they want to get the food that other creatures cannot get. And therefore, microevolution occurs, and the elongment of their necks had took place. My opponents had stated in the previous speech that, okay, scratch that. So, in conclusion, I would like to state that because there is no evidence whatsoever that we can falsify evolution entirely. We cannot say that evolution is not a fact. At the same time, all of the evidence that evolution provides comes together, and therefore evolution is a fact. Thank you.
Okay, I want to remind you, actually the first timer bell is to have how many, Kristen, how much time? 30 seconds?
15 minutes.
15 seconds.
60 seconds.
The
Good morning, worthy opponents, fellow teammates, and members of the audience. My name is Jasmine, and today we are here to debate about the resolution of creation versus evolution. And my teammates and I, we firmly believe that evolution is a fact. The fossil records and the fossil layers are one of the evidence the theory of evolution has. In sedimentary rock deposits, remains of animals and plants are found, and these remains gives us record of past changes through vast periods of time. Some extinct species show traits that were transitional between major groups of organisms. Also, the existence of these species confirms that species are not fixed, but can evolve into other species over time. Some of the early fossil evidence includes Nicholas Stendel's study of the similarity between shark teeth and the rock commonly known as tongue stones, and Marianne Mantle's discovery of a tooth of a dinosaur called Iguanodon, which was at first mistaken as the tooth of a large iguana. The fossils found by scientists shows us the forms of life that is no longer living with us today. The reason to the similarities between the extinct fossils and the living ones today can be reasoned by what my previous speaker, Ray, talked about. The process of natural selection is basically whoever has a better trait that suits the environment survives to pass the trait on. That's why we see organisms in the fossil layers that cannot be identified to the animals living nowadays. The organisms that did not survive because of the competition or disadvantage died out, and the survivors continue to pass their traits on. So scientists search in fossil layers to find evidence to support evolution as well. In conclusion, with the fossil layers and the records supporting the evolution, the theory of evolution will stand. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Stella. Today, my teammate and I will discuss the living fossils. Why did living fossil animals not evolve? If you have an environment where your current flow already works in an efficient way, and all the likely avenues of improvement involve short-term decrease in fitness, then it is very unlikely that such mutation will survive. The animals that are sometimes referred to as living fossils have found their niche, and unless the equilibrium is disturbed, they are unlikely to evolve much. With the climate change ongoing, it is fairly certain that some of the living fossil species are going to see major change to their environment and lose an increased evolutionary pressure. The two examples are coelacanths and horseshoe crab. These two living fossil species demonstrate that the creature does not evolve with the environment. Once a creature is optimized, there is little incentive to change much. This is especially true for marine or otherwise aquatic species, where the environment changes little. According to the above discussion, the principle of evolution is a natural elimination. There is no improvement will be eliminated. Then how living fossil is neither improved nor eliminated, so the existence of living fossil to overturn the natural selection of Darwin about the survival of the fittest evolution theory completely overturned. And thank you.
The third opposition rebuttal.
Hello, everyone. I'm Amanda. Today, I want to support my teammate Stella. Our topic is living fossils. The term living fossil comes from the book On the Origin of Species published by Darwin in 1859. Some of the existing species appear to be almost the same as their ancient ancestors. Are living fossils not changed in millions of years? Goblin shark is a living fossil which is of attention. It is worth noting that the goblin shark is the only species of masculinity and almost doesn't change in the history of 125 million years. In other words, goblin shark is a veritable living fossil. It is confirmed that the Earth has continued to experience many times of global catastrophe and multiple glacial times. Although goblin sharks escaped many times the extinction, but they didn't evolve a lot of similar characteristics of species. Being experienced 125 million years, goblin shark almost didn't evolve and become a dominant species, and it is very hard to see a goblin shark. This proves that it is not correct, as the theory of evolution predicts that the traits suitable to survive will accumulate for individual variation and then produce new species. Thank you.
The fourth opposition, no, third opposition rebuttal. I'm sorry, proposition rebuttal.
Hello, my name is Gabrielle, and our team firmly believes that evolution is fact. I would like to make some rebuttals of some previous points made by our opponents. Our opponents say that, ask the question of if evolution is true, why are there so many gaps in the fossil record? Now, the thing is, there's always going to be gaps in the fossil record. There's a transitional species between an ancient land mammal and modern whales called the Ambulocetus natans. And yet, if we find this, we have found this transitional species, but now there's just a gap between both sides now. There will always be gaps. But the fact that we can even find transitional species is proof that there were many of these transitional species, as fossils are very rare and very hard to form. Our opponent also said that because the goblin shark hasn't evolved in 125 million years, then evolution simply can't be a fact. But one goblin shark cannot disprove the entire theory of evolution. There's plenty of species who have evolved over millions of years. Now, to continue and elaborate on my teammates' points, the fossil record shows significant change in time. Rocks that are over 1 billion years old, they are only fossils of single-celled organisms. By 550 million years ago, you can see simple multicellular animals. By 500 million years, you can see jawless fish, and then eventually amphibians, reptiles, mammals, and then birds. This fossil record shows that life started simple and evolved to the complex state it is today. The younger and younger a fossil, the more it looks like animals we can see today. So therefore, the fossil record clearly shows that life has evolved from simple to complex, and we cannot use just specific animals, specific examples of animals who haven't evolved to disprove the entire theory of evolution, which is not just about fossil records. It's a convergence of evidence from all different branches of science. Thank you.
The fourth proposition constructed.
So, good morning, honorable judge, worthy opponents, and member of the audience. My name is Lynn, and from MAK, standing on the side that believe that evolution is a fact. So, every life form started as a cell and slowly developed into different structure of a living animal. We can see the different developments through looking at its embryos, which is the unborn offspring in the process of developing. Looking at fish, we can see the basic body plans in their embryos. Comparing the embryos between a fish and human, you'll be surprised to find many similarities between the two. Both embryos have a head, a body, and a tail. More specifically, if you look at the neck, which is the pharyngeal area, both human and fish has a gill arches. But this couldn't be seen on most human or fish when they were born, since the fish developed into a gills and human developed it into the part of a middle ear or the voice box. Its existence can not only be proven by observing the embryos, but when Gill's arches doesn't fully develop into a voice box, then you will be able to find a pit in your ear, and it's developed through an ancient gill. We can also find the similarities between a fish and a human by looking at the different part inside our body. When you cut open a fish, their gonads are right by their heart. You might wonder how that's similar to us, but when babies were first born, their gonads were deep in their body. Then, through time, it grows out the body wall because the sperms cannot handle the heat in our body. However, we can see the weak spot in man that leads the possibility to get hernias. This shows that our body is not perfect and we're still in the process of developing. Embryos not only can prove the idea of the different relationships between different species, but it can also prove that animals are evolving. We can find a toothless whale developing teeth in their embryos. And it's weird, why would they need to do that if they're toothless? Or a tetrapod bird having 3-digit wing as they grow into adults. And this is the evidence of life form not created independently, but evolution is proving this by saying that animals use what has gone before and make into useful now. And this explains why their embryos doesn't just reflect on how they will look like when they grow up. Also, the different stage, and this proves the different stage of evolution. With these evidence, our team strongly believe that evolution is a fact. Thank you.
For the opposition constructor.
Hello everyone, my name is Joshua. Today, my team and I are going to show you that the evolution theory is a fiction. There is no scientific evidence that a species can change the number of chromosomes within the DNA. The chromosome count within each species is fixed. This is the reason a male from one species cannot mate successfully with a female of another species. Man could not evolve from a monkey. Each species is locked into its chromosome count that cannot be changed. If an animal developed an extra chromosome or lost a chromosome because of some deformity, it could not successfully mate. The defect could not be passed along to the next generation. Evolving a new species is scientifically impossible. For example, a Canis familias has only 22 chromosomes, whereas a monkey has 55 and a cat has 38. Half of the total number of chromosomes are contained in the female reproductive cells, and half are contained in the male. So the exact total number is brought together in the offspring. Homo sapiens have 46 chromosomes. This chromosome count is a steady factor. This determines what is called the fixity of species. Because the chromosome count doesn't vary, people always give birth to people. Dogs always give birth to dogs. The genes can produce variety within the species, but cannot result in a different species. Genes allow for people to be short, tall, fat, and thin, but they are still all human beings. The chromosomes make crossing of the species an uncrossable barrier. This certainly would hinder any evolution. Dogs cannot breed with cats. This fact stops evolution dead in the tracks. Thank you.
For the opposition rebuttal.
Hello everyone, my name is Felcia. Today I want to talk about useless genes. There are about 20,000 transcripts that can be encoded and translated into proteins, but these useful genes account for only 1 to 2%, and the remaining 98% is account for indispensable but not useful, that is pseudogenes. Gene sequence is like a section of the roadway from Kaohsiung to Taipei, like this. And
the Kaohsiung to Taipei, and translate as we proceed from the Kaohsiung station, passing to the station to Taipei station, and the Smith sequences of amino acids. Like this. Sorry. And Sutto genes like the typhoon swept the western roadway and have something wrong with the station. And like this. This is Sutto genes. So that can be translated but cannot sequences amino acids. If this species environment as described in the evolutionary theory, the most super species of the environment will be returned and the useless features will be eliminated in the evolutionary process. It is clear that biological genes replication does not apply to the survival of these species. So I have two questions. Cell delivers is very energy consuming process. Natural selection can be fitted out of the more suitable for the new environment of the species. Characteristic white species still retain these Sutto genes and continues to copy these Sutto genes. Similarity, why can we humans retain the wisdom teeth and the appendix in our stomach? And the male nipples, this is use these features. Thank you.
Honorable Judge, worthy opponents and members of the audience. My name is Vince Huang from Morrison Academy, Kaohsiung. And today I am standing on the side that evolution is fact. But before I start my speech, I would like to rebut my opponents. My opponents have said that evolution does not prove that Homo sapiens have evolved from monkeys. But to prove this, I would like to show that the similarity between the genetics of Homo sapiens and chimps are actually 99.9% similar. In the Bible, God tells us that He creates all life diverse and certainly creatures according to its kind. However, using this definition, we see that basically God created everything differently without any similarities between one and the next. However, scientists have found that humans are actually related to the animals around us, for example, the chimpanzees. According to origins, chimpanzees and humans are about 99% identical to each other, and the chimps have about a third of their genes encoded proteins that are exactly similar to those of humans. My opponents may say that there is still a 0.1% or 1% difference between humans and chimps. Therefore, my argument is invalid. However, my opponent has to take note that relatedness and similarity does not have to be 100% equal. Species can be related without being 100% alike. Yet my argument still stands because the Bible has clearly stated that animals are created according to each kind with no relatedness between each species. Another example of animal relatedness is between humans and flies. There has been recent scientific breakthrough in the fact that we are now able to insert human genes into those of the fruit flies. Experiments have been conducted that the flies are using certain human genes, such as those of the eyes and the head. Though the results were extremely mutated and deformed flies, they are successful in implanting the genes and therefore mutating the genes of the flies. This point stands for the resolution because it proves that the flies and the humans are connected to a certain degree if you look into the gene pool of these organisms. Yes, dogs and cats cannot crossbreed together because the gene pools are different, but we can see that humans and flies are actually related because the gene pools match, and therefore the human genes can also be implanted into those of the flies. The Bible has constantly stated that animals are created to their kind and not to others, which means that one animal cannot be the same as the other. However, with these experiments, we find that this is invalid. So in conclusion, our team firmly believes that evolution is fact. Thank you.
Good morning, honorable judges, worthy opponents, and members of the audience.
My name is Elena Chen, and today I'm going to talk about why evolution is a fact. My previous team members talked about similarities between embryological development and DNA. Another piece of evidence for evolution is comparative anatomy. Comparative anatomy is a comparison of our internal and external organs. This includes 3 studies: homologous features, analogous features, and vestigial features. Homologous features are traits that are similar. This suggests a common ancestor. A prominent example is the similarities between vertebrates such as whales, cats, humans, and birds. Even though they looked externally different from one another, they all obtained a hand structure composed of carpals, which is this part, metacarpals, and phalanges. Another example of homologous features is bilateral symmetry between. Bilateral symmetry is that one side of an organism's body structure reflects the other sides. If you cut the structure in half, they look exactly the same. Bilateral symmetry proves that an organism includes butterflies, lobsters, beetles, or turtles. Bilateral symmetry is an important step in developing sensory organs in your head. This further proves that bilateral symmetry contributes to the act of organisms evolving into other species. So previously I talked about the similarities between whales and humans, but there are still other parts within a whale and a human that differs greatly from one another. One of the reasons was because of the habitats these 2 animals lived on. One lives in the ocean, another lives on land. However, if you look closely enough, you can see the hind leg bones structure in both whales and humans. These structures are called vestigial features, which are structures no longer in use but suggest a common ancestor. The presence of vestigial features brings us onto a question. Why would this non-useful structure be present in whales, which lives in the ocean? Is it a mistake in which a creator made when he's creating his organisms, or can it become a proof that whales are an evolved species of this common ancestors that we all have? The third type of feature within the side of comparative anatomy is analogous feature. Analogous features are different traits which serve for different function and appearance of organisms. This one example is adaptive radiation, and all birds evolved from. In conclusion, our team firmly believes that evolution is right. Thank you.
Let's learn. Okay. First, opposition construction.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Didi. Today, my partner and I are going to talk about why we disagree theory of evolution by mutation. As far as evolution is concerned, mutation is a wrong way to go. Almost every mutation we know is identified by disease or abnormality it causes. Some people use mutation to explain the origin of hereditary defects and the loss of traits. But the fact is, by producing defect or blocking the normal functions of certain genes, mutation has led numerous genetic abnormality into one population. For example, in the royal houses of Europe, the bleeders disease may have appeared as a mutant of clotting factor gene in Queen Victoria. Evolutionists may recognize that the mutation is harmful more often than they are helpful. No evolutionist believes that standing in front of X-ray machines would improve human beings. None of them thinks the destruction of the Earth's ozone layer is good because it increases mutation rates and may speed up evolution. Evolutionists recognize that this will lead only to increased skin cancer and to other harmful changes. Perhaps a helpful change occurs, but it would be buried by even more harmful changes. Because harmful mutations so greatly outnumber than the supposed helpful one, the theory of evolution might not be true. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Vicky. I think genetic mutation will create new species. Genetic mutation is the main evolutionary basis of the theory, but more than 99% of mutation are exceptional, even fatal. The probability of natural mutation is only 1 in 100,000. If it happens and brings good situation, the probability must be very small, which is smaller than 1 in 100,000. If we use artificial mutation, then what percentage does it work? There was a group of scientists who used radiation to make fruit flies to mutate. The percentage of mutation is very high. However, it also produced a lot of abnormal Drosophila, or even not fertility, and there has no new species appear. If someday we discover a new creature, and we found that it has some trait as a non-organism, how do we define it as a mutation creature, and how do we know that it isn't already exist? Thank you.
The fifth opposition rebuttal.
Good morning, honorable judge, worthy opponents, and fellow teammates. My name is Raymond Sin from MAK, and today I'll be debating why evolution is a fact. But first, I would like to rebut my opponents. The previous speakers in this group said that mutation means genetically abnormal. And however, scientists could use that genetic abnormality to create new species for evolution. For example, scientists use species of fish that respond to polluted water to breed more fish of that species. However, it mutated into a new species called the glowfish, where the fish could glow in the dark in bright colors. And that is an example of how mutation could evolve for evolution. Back to my main point. My teammate Ilona had talked about how animals had similar body plans internally, and I will be talking about how they are similar externally. For example, deer, moose, zebras, horses, and donkeys, they all seem pretty different, but really they have all the same bone structure when you look at the outside. For example, they all have 4 legs, they all have long bodies that connect to the 4 legs. And same for insects, they all have heads, abdomens, or thoraxes. And that's all external similarities. One of the similarities that all organisms share is also behavior. For example, the infants of humans and apes, they all act similar in gestures when they are born. And they are also very social animals. Most of the primate species walk on 2 legs, and that is how organisms are similar. I have a few questions on this topic for the opposition team. Is it a coincidence that the supernatural being that created these organisms, or how they came to be, is in a way that they share similar body structures that are largely similar? Is it also a coincidence that they behave in the same way? No, I don't think so, because evolution is a well-planned out theory, and that is why all the branches of scientific evidence come together and fit together to make evolution as a perfect theory. Therefore, evolution is a fact because of how organisms share the same traits. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Helena Stevenson, and I'm going to be talking about why there has been a lack of evidence in the Bible to prove that creationism is actually a fact over evolution. First, evolution is science, and creation belongs more on the belief branch, and it's more belongs to religion. You can't put religion and your own beliefs and faith into science, because the evolution theory has backup evidence, like my teammates have said. And
Creationism, like I said, is more about faith. Faith is believing in something you can't see. So obviously, creationism cannot outprove evolution based on the facts that we have proved. First, I would like to prove is that it is written, or it is known that Moses was the one who wrote the book of Genesis, the very first book in the Bible. And he lived from 1500 BC to 1300 BC, way after when God actually created the earth. So how are we supposed to know that the facts that he wrote was true? Because we don't know. He wasn't there when he wrote Genesis, when it actually happened. So for all we know, the Bible, Genesis, could all just be like a bunch of stories and fictions. And Moses could be missing out on a lot of things that we don't know. And so because Moses wasn't there to witness the six-day performance, if he was, then that means the fact that Adam and Eve were the first human beings wouldn't be true. Therefore, the fall never actually happened by them. Another evidence would be the flood. And many creationists would say that the Grand Canyon was formed by the flood, based on catastrophism, which is believing that the soil was weak enough for the flood, able to break down the soil and forming this huge gap in the Grand Canyon. Whereas the evolutionists would say that for millions of years it took from each layer to form on each other, and it took millions of years for the Colorado River able to make this Grand Canyon. So in conclusion, I would like to say that evolution is a fact, and that there are many things that the creationist side have missed.
Hello everyone, I'm Howard. Today my teammate and I will explain why does the big extinction go against the evolution. There are 5 big extinctions as known as the Big Five happened in Earth's history. In the Big Five, the most curious one is definitely the extinction of dinosaurs between late Cretaceous and Tertiary. However, the extinction has 2 major questions against this theory. First, Darwin said evolution of complex organs grows slowly and constantly, but a lot of species suddenly appeared after the extinction. If Darwin were right, it is impossible for the rare species to evolve in only millions of years. Second, people believe that a fall of meteorites led to the extinction of dinosaurs. When the meteorites hit Earth's surface, the dust raised to the atmosphere and covered it. Plants couldn't photosynthesize, thus animals lost source of oxygen and food. Also, acid rain caused by nitrogen oxides result in death of marine life. If few species survived from the disaster, it was extremely hard to evolve in such a harsh environment. So I think evolution is just a fiction, and my teammate will explain more about that. Thank you.
Opposition rebuttal.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Brian. Today we are going to debate about evolution is a fiction or a fact. My teammates and I are surely believe that it is a fiction. At the end of the Cretaceous, the Earth was hit by small comets and was affected by lots of volcanic eruption, which changed the climate of the Earth. A lot of volcanic ash and dust went into the atmosphere. The dust shaded the sun. Therefore, there are no way for plants for the photosynthesis. Also, the temperature gradually decreased. The Earth's carbon dioxide content is also greatly changed. When dinosaurs extinct, the mammals rise. But the climate is so complicated. Is this really suitable for mammals to evolve? According to the evolutionary ecology, there are 2 types of natural selection. First is type R, which is representing the reptiles. They lay lots of eggs in once, but they are short life. It mainly occurs in lots of unstable factors. They lay lots of eggs because they want to increase the survival rate. Second is type K, which is representing the mammals. They don't lay lots of babies in once, but they are long-living. They usually occur in the environment under the stability of the time. The past environment is so complex. Why the mammal can still have a large number of evolution? It is contradictory. On the other hand, the Earth's climate changed in a short period. How mammals can change the offspring genes to adapt the drastic environment in a short time? Finally, based on the R and K selection theory, can you explain why the mammals rise after the dinosaur extinct? Is this the R and K selection theory is wrong, or there are no evolution from the beginning to the end? Thank you.
Good morning, honorable judge, worthy opponents, and members of the audience. My name is Carmen, and my team and I firmly believe that evolution is a fact. And one thing that my opponents may use to disprove evolution is creationism. I'm here to prove that. I'm adding on to my teammate what Helona said, and I'm here to prove that creationism is not backed up by biblical evidence, and therefore it is an untrustworthy source of evidence. So my teammate said that creationism is just a religious belief system and is unscientific at all. And she also mentioned how Moses wrote, or creationists say that evidence points to Moses, who wrote the book of evidence, or the book of Genesis. Anyways, he wrote it hundreds or thousands of years after creation. So for a long period of time, the story of creation has been orally passed down. It's like a game of telephone. The stories must have morphed or changed, and everyone who has played telephone knows how messed up it can get. For example, the word yom in the Hebrew language doesn't only mean 24-hour long days. It also means a long period of time, even hundreds or thousands of years. And also, my next point is I'm going to prove that the Bible is merely just a collection of stories and not this trustworthy or reliable source of evidence to prove the creation story. So there are many stories in the Bible that relate to past or relate to other stories. For example, the story of the flood and the Epic of Gilgamesh. The Epic of Gilgamesh is from Babylon, hundreds of years before the Bible was even written, and it shares so many similar elements, not just about the flood, but 3 birds sent out to find dry land. The ark had many components with only one door. One man was chosen by God/Babylonian gods. This proves that the Bible is merely a collection of stories, and that you cannot prove the Bible is evidence for the creation story. So I know this doesn't disprove creationism entirely, but it does show that the Bible is an unreliable source that you can back up the creationism with this evidence. So how can you trust the story of creation if it was written thousands of years after it happened, and if the Bible shares so many similarities with other historical stories? All right. In conclusion, I believe evolution is fact, and creationism is a religious story. Thank you.
Okay, the 7th composition construction.
Sorry. Hi, I'm Graham from MAK, and I'm here to debate that evolution is a fact. And I'll start off by pointing out that the opposing team's argument is that there's an ultimate intelligent creator that created everything. And the most prominent argument that is used for creation is that since there's a design, there must be a designer. And they use the analogy of the watchmaker. That since a watch can't come together by itself, there has to be a watchmaker. But there's a logical fallacy in this, that where did the watchmaker come from? And where did the ultimate creator come from? And the chances are so slim of the watch coming together. But that's another misconception, that the chances are extremely slim, because the infinite monkey cage theorem states that if you put one monkey in a cage with a typewriter, there's a 1 in 10 to the power of 300,000 chance that it will type the Shakespearean novel Hamlet. Although the chances are so slim, it's probably actually likely that evolution will happen, because we don't know how long the Earth or the universe existed before the Earth was here. Because beyond 4.6 billion years, we don't know how long it was just dust. We don't know how long it was nothing. So it actually could be that there's a good chance that evolution could happen because of the infinite monkey cage theorem. And the point of this is that there's still a chance, and because there's so much time before the Earth came together, we don't know. Because there's so much time before the Earth was created, that there's still a good chance that the Earth was created through evolution. Therefore, evolution is fact, because there's a good chance that this this will happen because there's so much time. Thank you.
Dear teacher, dear classmates, and dear teenagers, after hearing so many evidence that prove the evolution theory is fiction, let's think about one most fundamental question: how to prove a theory is true? I think the answer will be the sample numbers. The sample, you need a sample to be your evidence to support your theory, right? Just like we don't know the process of evolution. We don't know the process is this one or this one. You can see this. Yeah, give you. And the sample number need to at least larger than 1. Such as if I want to prove Professor James is handsome, we need to observe him from the 2 sides, right? The left side and right side. Okay, and if the sample number is more and more, the uncertainty about your theory will be lower and lower. Okay, and however, unfortunately, the sample can use for evolution theory just only 1. That one will be the Earth. Why? Because evolution theory is described about a phenomenon that happened in the whole world, right? And the factor will affect evolution is just like what you say, the bones or the DNA or the structure. It's all global matter, right? So now it's still too early to say the evolution theory is correct until the human can find other planets that have life. If other planets have life and the life also show the evolution, the evolution theory will not be the fiction just like now. So, and if the sample number is, now we just have only 1, right? And the theory won't be practical. Just like, can you tell me, if you disagree, can you tell me what kind of species will human evolve in the future? Is like just this one, like Superman, the human will be, or they will become Batman, or they will become a pig. Because now, the evolution theory is unpractical due to the lack of sample number. And why the gravity, just like what you say, gravity will be the truth. Because gravity can design many different experiments, and the experiments show all the same results. So we can say the gravity is a good theory. But now, evolution theory is not. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Pen. I want to talk about, is life begin at Earth or outer space? About the universe, what we know is so lopsided. From the Earth, form of Earth, or sources of material, all of them from outer space. In other words, the origin of life is also belong to the material of outer space. Then, if we change the angle of thinking, is it possible that the important mechanism of life come from outer space? We always think subjectively. The Earth is a very special planet in space because of the Earth's environment, just suitable for many important chemical reactions. Make simple inorganic and organic become the most primitive life. By the Earth's point of view, this is may be reasonable, but is this real? Perhaps there is a planet in space. Its environment is more suitable than Earth. Perhaps there are types of cells in the outer space for a long time. Is it even possible that some planet has encountered great extinction, leading to there is no signal of biologicals? There are many possibilities we don't take into account yet. So it is not correct to think evolution from the point of view of Earth. Thank you.
7. Proposition rebuttal.
Good morning. My name is William, and my team and I firmly believe that evolution is fact. So let me start off by going back to the point that your second speaker said. And your second speaker said that evolution is possible, but we can't prove that it happened. But if evolution is possible, and it means that evolution has most likely happened in the past and will happen in the future because of the amount of time that exists, like in the past. Yeah. And this connects to my teammate's main point that, as he said before, that having a little chance doesn't mean there's no chance. And creationism often assumes that the slim chance means no chance. But this is one of the many logical fallacies that you guys, So your arguments are hypocritical because if you think about it, you guys are believing that an all-powerful being created everything and it existed from the beginning. And the chance of that being existing is even more slim compared to monkeys writing Hamlet or evolution being real. So a tiny bit of chance given enough time can produce creation or Hamlet or whatever. And there are many inventions that were invented by accident. For example, microwaves and potato chips. And this shows that given enough time and chances, living things can be made and organisms can evolve. And some other logical fallacies that include the claim that no case of macroevolution has ever been documented. But macroevolution cannot be directly observed since it's a result of microevolution accumulating. And transitional phases are the results of generations of microevolution. So in conclusion, there are many logical fallacies creationists use to argue against evolution, and that's dumb, since evolution is impossible to disprove because there's always a possibility, and that's what your second speaker said. And that means evolution must be real given enough time. Therefore, evolution is fact. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Akari, and our team firmly believes that evolution is true. Now I will be talking about how evolution do not need an explanation for the origin of life. Since no one was there to see what really happened in the very beginning, therefore there's no value in knowing what happened back then. The idea of evolution itself has been around for centuries, which goes all the way back to the ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle. Some scientists think life appeared the moment our our planet, our environment was stable enough to support it. At first, all living things on Earth were simple, single-cell organisms. Much later, the first multicellular organisms evolved, and after that, Earth's biodiversity greatly increased. Today, the most accepted theory of life on Earth is evolution, and there is a vast amount of evidence supporting this theory. However, since new evidence is constantly being discovered, hypotheses about how life originated may change or be modified. Every origin of how life started, whether it's creationism or evolution, it is said to be as a theory. We believe that evolution is the most possible way of how life began, because of how much evidence is provides us. We believe that life on Earth began more than 3 billion years ago, evolving from the most basic of microbes into array of complexity of time. As my team stated earlier about fossil records, the earliest evidence for life on Earth comes from fossilized stromatolites in Greenland that are about 3.7 billion years old. These bacteria are already biologically complex. They have cell walls protecting their protein-producing DNA, so scientists think life must have begun much earlier. In conclusion, our team, as an affirmative team, firmly supports the resolution that evolution is a fact. Thank you.
Opposition constructive.
Hello everyone, my name is Amy. My teammate and I support the evolution theory is a fiction. Today I'm going to talk about lower and higher level species of evolution theory. The evolution theory says that the higher animals evolved from lower animals. The relatives of the creatures in the world are like a tree, were developed by the same ancient. Here I have two issues to propose my question. According to the theory of evolution, the commonly used organs or characteristic will evolve its function or size, and the uncommonly used organs will degrade. But use the human degradation of organs as an example. The apes are considered the former species of human evolution, but the tail with the ability to maintain balance, and the cecum serve as the immune organs shrink or even disappear. Why are these commonly used organs will disappear? Shouldn't it be more strengthened or have more self-protection functions? Another question is, many organisms have more complex organs such as eyes, ears, or lungs. When it was in a state that has not fully developed, it can be effective to survive. What are the reasons for this creature to contain this feature and continue to evolve? This does make sense. So how do evolution theory explain these two situations? They don't match the definition of evolution theory. This is why I support the evolution theory is a fiction. Thank you.
Opposition rebuttal.
Hello everyone, I'm Tess. Today I'm going to talk about the low-level and high-level creatures. First of all, according to Darwin evolution theory, change means creatures change from low level to high level. Based on the nature selection, genes will change randomly or based on the environment changes and change into new species of higher level. However, where is the difference between low and high level? The change in one species is start from single. Take apes as an example. Are all of the apes transformed into human at the same time? They must change in some kind of orders. In some kind of order. Is they order deceive the level? How to deceive which apes is in higher level? Why there are different levels in same species? Now, my question is human the higher level creature? In some respect, human is way behind other species that are in the low level. Human lack of the ability of adapt nature. However, it is a required ability to survive. Why did nature believe that is unnecessary and take away from human? In conclusion, as long as people can define what low-level and high-level creatures are, I can agree with Darwin evolution theory. How can he be called a theory with a suspicious definition? So, as long as there is no evidence for transition species and definition for level difference, I don't think the evolution theory is a complete theory, but a suppose with weak points. Thank you.
Proposition rebuttal.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Annabelle, and we will be arguing on the affirmative team supporting the resolution that evolution is true. Before I begin with my main point, I would like to rebut my opponents. My opponent, or the second speaker, stated that evolution cannot be the only truth. Yet, this is not a reasonable argument, because the law of non-contradiction states that two things cannot be both true at the same time. So this means that evolution or anti-evolution theories cannot be both true at the same time because it's not logical. Secondly, my opponent stated that evolution will not be a fiction if we find other planets that have life and evolved organisms. Yet Earth's environment in the start was really unstable as well, going through the stages of red Earth, gray Earth, and green Earth. The conditions become tolerable for life throughout ages and time, and this states that Earth was hard to survive on in the beginning as well. This also leads to my main point about how evolution does not need an explanation for the origin of life. So let me remind you once again of a definition that our team agreed with for evolution. Our side strongly believes that evolution of living things were powered by natural processes, which can be studied or understood, and all living things on Earth are related and have evolved from a common ancestor. This brings me to my main point. My teammate Akari had already stated the basis, the foundation for our topic, and I will be extending and further explaining our point. Evolution does not shed light directly on the origin of life. Rather, evolution is a process that focuses on how life changed and evolved from there and out. The evidence that supports evolution proves the process that living things can evolve from one type of species to another. It doesn't trace all and date all the way back to the first beings that have existed on Earth. The topic might lead to the finding out and discovery of the origin of life, but it doesn't directly relate to the process of evolving according to a definition we've given. For example, fossils record, radiometric dating, phylogenetics, and experiments, all evidence of evolution may go on to prove the origin of life. But whether it was formed in a huge chemical soup in a warm environment or under the sea, deep pressure geothermal vents, evolution does not directly relate to the origin of life. So in conclusion, our team stands as the proposition believe that evolution is fact. Thank you.
Proposition summation.
Good morning, and today I will be summing up the points that my team has made. So first of all, our first speaker, Anna, defined evolution as all living things from a common ancestor, and she has also defined it as driven by natural processes. Our second speaker, Grace, has proven that evolution does not necessarily need to include the origin of life, therefore refuting the idea that evolution is invalid because it fails to elaborate on abiogenesis. Grace also explains how life evolves through mutations, natural selections, and interbreeding. Our third speaker, Ray, has stated that creation is not scientifically proven, and also that the finches and giraffes have been evidence of how microevolution has occurred. And our fourth speaker, Andrew, has said evolution is fact because of the same reason gravity is fact, therefore disproving the idea that evolution cannot be a fact because it is only possible, but not 100% true. Our fifth speaker, Jasmine, has affirmed the idea that the fossil record proves evolution to be true by stating things such as the iguanodon's similarity to the iguana. Our sixth speaker, Gabby, has said that gaps will always exist, therefore disproving the idea that evolution is invalid due to the gaps that it has. She also refutes the idea that goblin sharks are enough to disprove evolution. And our seventh speaker, Lynn, says that every life form starts in an embryo and that the embryos are similar enough to prove that we all started from an original ancestor. Our eighth speaker, Vince, has disproved the argument of apes not coming from humans by saying that humans and apes are 99.9% similar. Our ninth speaker, Lona, has compared the organs and provided evidence for how organisms might seem externally different but are still internally similar. Our 10th speaker, Raymond, has stated that mutations may be abnormal, but they can still lead to new species, therefore refuting the fact that mutations are more harmful than helpful. And our 11th speaker, Helona, has proven and explained how the evolution is science while creation is just a belief, and also pointing out how we can trust Moses' writings of creation. And we have also proven that creation is unreliable because of oral tradition, and that the origin of a creator is unclear, and that evolution is still possible despite of the slim chances, and that evolution does not have to include the origin of life because it just has to explain the process of evolving. So we believe that evolution is a fact.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Leo. I will summarize a key point in this talk. I think that the persuasive theory will have some properties, and I will mention 5 properties. First is the problem of the time series. If the evolution theory is correct, all of the time series should be corresponding to evolution series, but that is not. Transition fossils and living fossils is not corresponding to the time series. Second is that the correct theory should not be defeated by the other theories. Take DNA and survival rate for example, and this is a biological theories. And the number of the DNA cannot be changed by any mechanism. In other words, the number is fixed. It is not corresponding to evolution theory, because the variability of DNA plays an important part to process the evolution. The two theories are taken by each self, so I think it is something wrong in evolution theories. Third is that each part of the evolution theory should be verified by itself. In other words, the evolution theory should not be from the contradiction part. And unfortunately, there are some contradiction parts in these theories, like useless gene and the natural select the fittest survivors, and R select, case select, and that is the contradiction part in the evolution theories. Fourth is that humans are always subjective, not objective. I think the persuasive theories should be objective instead of subjective, but evolution theory is not. Some define it too easy, like the order of the species and the origin of life. I think that every part in the evolution should be constructive instead of subjective. Finally, humans always limit ourselves to the Earth, and we need to consider the other sides like outer space. I believe that there are important elements in outer space about life. I think that the evolution is not correct at all. It has to be revised and be considered comprehensive. Thank you.
Now we conclude the formal part of the debate. Now the floor is open to whoever wants to say something. There's something you're passionate about, the debate subject. You want to challenge your opponent. Everybody can speak. Even you debated the last time. You're still welcome. Who wants to be the first one? Andy Len, boxing. You've got to get it out. Okay. Who? Okay. Who? Who wants to defend Charles? Who wants to attack Charles? Darwin. Okay, go ahead. 1 minute.
I just wanted to say that the theory of evolution doesn't actually say humans are descended from monkeys, but that humans and monkeys have a common ancestor. And so monkeys have also been developing through natural selection, and that's why they might have organs or parts of them that are more developed than humans.
Okay, any response to that on both sides? Okay, we're not debating teams now.
Yeah, okay, no team.
Okay, Michael.
Okay, now, I got a lot of attack. I think 2 or 3 person. I'm not really paying attention. So, now I have to go through all this again. Okay, first of all, rebuttal, it should be attacking others people has said. So I know I realize some of your rebuttal stuff talking about creation, but no, we're not saying it. So kind of off topic. One thing. Okay, and then the second thing is that when we talk about what some people say that I say it is possible, but it might not be fact, and someone say if it is possible, then it is fact. Okay, I'm gonna go with there's a theory called everyone knows photon, is it? You know, the photon, the light. Now, before Einstein, it is considered to be particle or waves, and then there are two that are fighting against each other, and then when Einstein comes up, they're both correct. So I'm saying that evolution could be correct, you know, even though we have a lot of evidence that say it's not, and you have a lot of evidence that say it is, but it is only possible. But why are you saying it's a fact? Again, why is it a fact if you can't dare to witness it? Okay.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, yeah.
Actually, I believe the evolution theory is true. Yeah. We don't know. I will not talk about difficult things like science or photo. What? I don't know. Yeah. I want to ask you: have you ever seen Jurassic Park? Yeah. They have one sentence is very famous. Do you believe that the life will find their own way? Do you believe that? If just like Superman, if he want to live in the future, he need to be strong, right? If the pig need to survive, he need to be cute. So the human won't eat them, right? And if the Batman, he want to survive, he need to be rich, right? So if the life can change with the environment, and these micro things will tiny together, and they will happen the evolution. The big thing will change. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, two more. Okay, Andrew, want to say something?
Can I take the Superman to this?
Yeah, sure.
So the previous speeches reminded me that Superman is actually an alien from some outer space planet that I don't know. Yes, from Krypton. And this sort of answers my opponent's question whether if there is actual life and evolution on other planets, then we can say that evolution is a fact, because there's other examples that evolution actually took place. And so we look here at Superman. There's in Krypton, there's a society of people as powerful as Superman. And therefore, this explains why there's actually evolution and life on other planets. And therefore, evolution is fact. Thank you.
All I want to say is evolution is based on weak scientific foundation. There are many examples cannot be explained. You know, a scientific theory based on some assumption should be testified no matter what is the time, wherever they are. Why there are so many cases my teammate just mentioned about. Evolution cannot give a good explanation. In my opinion, evolution is definitely not a good scientific theory. There must be a mechanism of how to form the Earth and us. One day, science will prove this. It should be like Newton's gravity or Einstein's relativity. Thank you.
I think a very important thing is what is the truth. you have tried to find the facts, and you try to interpret the facts according to your belief, but there is one truth. And you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free, it says in the Bible. And I hope in your pursuit of knowledge, you'll always find truth. And now we ask Mr. Torgerson, the principal of MAK, to speak a few words.
Hi, I want to welcome you guys. I know you've been here twice and been here for a while today, but thank you for coming. I think this is a really good exercise, not only in practicing your English. I know you guys are in a scientific English class, but hopefully it's also a good exercise in just thinking through your position on this very important issue. I also thank you guys. You're much older and more mature than these students over here, no offense. But I want to thank you guys for taking the time to think through these issues and to honestly debate them with our students. I think it's a really good activity for both parties, so thank you for coming out. I also want to say, too, regarding this debate, how healthy it is with an issue like this. I think oftentimes our human tendency is to decide what we think first and then come up with evidence. And that's a problem in the past when I've taught students. I used to teach history, and often my students would do something called source mining, where you decide on your hypothesis and then spend a lot of time looking for answers to prove yourself correct, rather than asking a question and spending a lot of time considering both sides and then coming up with a perspective, but always kind of holding your perspective with an open hand so that it can constantly be critiqued by new ideas. And so I hope this experience of, I don't know where each of you stands and what you actually think about this issue. I don't know where each of you guys, I know better about you guys than you guys, but I don't really know where each of you guys stands with this issue. And I'm guessing that today a lot of you guys were arguing from a perspective that you don't agree with. But I think that's actually a really healthy exercise to put yourself in the shoes of somebody who has a different perspective and really think through their perspective, because that helps you have more empathy for them. And then I think it also helps you understand your own perspective more, because you now have to defend it, so to speak, against your own evidence. So anyway, congratulations on a good debate. Have a wonderful lunch.